Hi guys, welcome to my channel. This is gonna be the next part of my story of my adult years. I think it ended at 19 when I had gotten out of the psych ward. So I got out and I decided that I was gonna start trying to build a life for myself. I went back to my apartment. I still didn't have a car, but that didn't stop me from finding a job. I got a job at a local Panera, which was about 2 miles from me, so I would walk there, even in the winter months. And if I got out like really late at night, my mom would sometimes pick me up and bring me back to my apartment because they only lived like 15 minutes from me, or like 10 or 15 minutes. I did that for a while. I also had another surgical tube inserted, and things were not going well with that. I don't mean feeding wise. I mean, yeah, feeding wise, but also like my body was back in the process of like rejecting it again, and I was in so much pain all the time. 19 was also when I was diagnosed with POTS, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, which basically means whenever I stand up, my blood pressure drops, but my pulse will skyrocket, and it makes me prone to fainting. Because you're obviously prone to fainting when you have anorexia, but it was happening a lot more frequently than it should have. So I had a test done called a tilt table test, where they literally strap you down to a table and monitor your vital signs and all kinds of stuff, and stand it straight up and wait for you to pass out. You don't go anywhere because you're strapped in, and then my neurologist did a nerve biopsy, took from 2 spots on my leg, and on my skin, and it was confirmed that I, in fact, had POTS. Back then, they didn't really do anything for it. Like now, I'm on medicine to raise my blood pressure and medicine to lower my pulse. And I have a PICC line. It's an IV that stays in for a long time, where I do fluids at night to help also boost my blood pressure. I worked probably for 6 months before I ended up in the hospital for a few days due to like malnutrition and such. And they switched from surgical tube back to an NG tube because of the way my body was responding to it. When I got out, my job required a doctor's note for me to return, and my doctor wouldn't write it. So I was like, fine, screw you, I'm gonna find another job. And at this time, my mom got a new car, and I was given her car. So I had a mode of transportation, which was awesome. I was so excited. I was like, I can be independent, and it was definitely a weight lifted off my shoulders. So I started nannying again, which I loved. Like I love nanny. I love children. It brings me true happiness and joy, unlike the eating disorder that gives you fake happiness and joy. I did that for a while. I eventually ended up when I was 20, I ended up being sent to the ER and actually was in septic shock, which basically means infection had spread to like your whole body. I don't remember a lot of my time there. But I was in the hospital for 2 months. They went back and put the surgical tube back in, my third one. And after there, I was sent to a treatment center in Arizona. I spent my 21st birthday in the hospital, which majorly sucked. And I was at the treatment center for probably 5 months. No, 3 months. And then I got sent to the medical hospital because I was so medically unstable and I never went back. And I was stuck there for another 2 months before I could go home. I went home and they switched me back to the nose hose. But while I was gone, we discovered that I had gastroparesis, which is basically the paralysis of the stomach. So my food empties a lot slower, like a lot slower than a normal person. It'll just like sit in there and kind of come up on its own sometimes, and it's gross and it's miserable and you just feel nauseous all the time. So instead of the NG, they started placing NJs. So the tube would end in part of my intestine so I wouldn't get nauseous from the feeds. I came home. I got another nannying job. Again, I had my eating disorder in my back pocket. But I was able to stay home for a decent amount of time. And then I started having seizures. I had a home care nurse every day of the week from like 8 to 1. And finally, my therapist was like, this is not okay, like, you need to go to the ER and get checked out. And of course I put up a big fight and I was like, no, I'm walking out of here, I'm not going. She's like, you have a medical guardian, you have no choice. So the ambulance came and took me to the ER and they kept me. And of course I had a seizure, or I had a couple, and they sent me to a hospital in Massachusetts which could do like more monitoring of it, like the brain activity. And I stayed there for a month and a half, 2 months, and was sent to a skilled rehab nursing home. I was not happy. I got there and I was terrified. I would not leave my room. And I just didn't understand how I had gotten to this point. I was the youngest by like 50 years at least. And I actually had a roommate. Well, I guess that's a lie, because I had a roommate who had an eating disorder too. I'm like, why would they put us together? Like, and I ended up spending 23 months there. I had double ankle surgery, which we also learned that I have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is hypermobile type. So all my joint, like ligaments and tendons and collagen tissue are super flexible. So I'm prone to dislocations and subluxations, and both my ankles, basically both ankles, my ligaments and tendons were just like totally screwed up. So I had surgery there, and I had to relearn how to walk. And I'll get more in depth in it in my next video, since I'm already at 10 minutes and YouTube's gonna say it's too long to upload. But if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and hope you have a lovely day.